Welcome to FM Corner. I'm Danny Keynes, Director of Relationship for WCE. At RFMA recently in Washington, D.C., my boss, Josh Solon, and I did a presentation. And we did it on compassionate versus candid leadership. It's a tale of two leaders. Those of you that came to our presentation, thank you. We appreciate everyone that had the opportunity to come. Hope that it's up on RFMA's website at some point or whatever. You could get notes from it if you wanted. But I wanted to take a little time today and next week, so a two-parter, to talk just a little bit about compassionate and candid leadership and what Josh and I were trying to do. Most of you know me, and most of you know Josh. So you can guess who did compassionate and who did candid. It's not a hard test. Everybody should pass. But this kind of came about because we have one-on-ones every week. We discuss this a lot. Josh speaks from the compassionate side of the business. I speak more from the candid side. Sometimes those clash. And we've had numerous conversations about it and talked through it from different stages. Out of that came an opportunity with RFMA to present it, which we did at the conference. And the goal was to speak to both sides. He would speak on compassion, I would speak on candid. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about a little bit this morning, just kind of the differences between the two. And then next week, we want to talk about how important it is to have a blend and have a balance for those. Because at some point you have to have both. Today I want to talk a little bit about compassionate and a little bit about compassion, notes from our presentation. The key in all this is to understand you're probably weighted one way or the other. You're either on the compassionate side, and that's how you do it the majority of the time, or you're on the candid side, and that's how you do it. And that's okay. Most of us have a dominant hand, but we have to have the other hand as well to make things happen and do stuff. So it's okay that one side is more dominant than the other. The critical part is to understand the other side, and when is it time to blend that in to something that you're trying to do. Compassionate leadership is fostering retention. You know, you work really hard to get people on your team. You want to keep those people. You have invested in them. You have spent time. You don't want to lose them. So when they come to you with a problem or they're upset, the first thing you're trying to do is calm that down and so on. You don't want to lose them. You want to help them, but you don't want to lose them as an employee. You don't want them checking out or quitting or anything like that. You want to do what you can to address the issues that they have on the table and keep them because you see some growth in them and you want them to grow. It's people first. You're talking about the people and their feelings. You're out there showing care for those people in what's going on. So you're trying to address situations in a way that makes the person feel good. They don't get hurt. You have to acknowledge what goes on and work with them on it, but you're doing that from a point of compassion and trying to help them. You want to listen to understand, not to necessarily tell them what to do, but you want to listen so that you understand what are they talking about and asking, so that your opinions that you give back to them will be helpful. Won't be hurtful, nothing like you did it wrong. More along the lines of, let's see what happened and how can we make it better. You're always focusing on a positive aspect of it. Okay, it happened. How do we take care of it and how do we make it better as we go forward? And then who they are. What kind of person? How do I bring value? How do I speak to them in a tone that makes them feel good and feel okay? And how do I make them come out of this wanting to be better? I'm not losing them in a conversation. Kind of the essence of compassionate and how that leadership plays. Candid leadership probably a little more older school. The younger the manager, the more compassionate seems to be the way that works. And the older a person is, not always, but the older a person is, sometimes their approach is a little more candid. That's true in our case. Josh is much younger than me. He is much more on the compassionate side. I am much older, and I am more on candid side. Candid is being honest. Candid is being really kind of upfront with your people and your team and talking to them. It's a firm approach typically, but hopefully it's also a fair approach. Sometimes you have to balance that with results because you're trying to address something and fix something. And you have to be very careful about how firm are you in that. What does your team expect? One of the things is, as a leader, is don't surprise your team. Don't surprise them. There's a way that you are, and there's a way that you're going to deliver messages, you're going to handle issues, and so on. Doesn't mean it's right. But they, over time, kind of learn these are how some things are going to happen, and you don't want to surprise them. You got to take a chance. Every now and then you got to sit down with somebody and say, this happened, and we were wrong, and we've got to fix it, and I need your help. And here's what happened that had it been done differently, it could have been prevented. Sometimes it costs you money, so there's a financial issue as well. You have to have that conversation with the person because how are they ever going to learn? You're not doing it for them. You're not fixing it for them. You're helping them get it fixed, and then you're talking about what went wrong and how to address it going forward. It's a little different style than the compassionate side. It's speed. Talk to people quickly when something happens. Don't let it linger. The longer you let something linger and don't talk about it with that individual, the more they start thinking about things or putting ideas in their head or, oh no, here's what's going to happen. And they're an emotional mess. Take the time to address it quickly. And then candor is really, in my mind, a form of respect. I want to be very upfront. I want to talk about it. I want to deal with it. And then I want to move on. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to give you an excuse of I know you're busy, or I don't want to do that. I'm going to say, here's what happened, and here's how we got to deal with it. And this is what we need to do moving forward. And I'll help you get there. And I'm helping you get there because I see great things in your future. I see success. And I want you to be great at this. Today, as a company, we weren't great. Tomorrow, I hope we are. And that's the plan. Let's get it figured out, and then let's move on. But let's not be afraid to talk about it. That's kind of the difference. Both are about people. Both are about how you communicate and work with your teams, but it's different methods. One is the people first. The other side's a little more to the result and dealing with what happened in a way to get it taken care of and as you move forward. Neither one is wrong. You have to be careful because teaching by either means can be perceived as being wrong. If you're compassionate, that can be seen as you're not tough enough, or you always accept excuses, or yes, but is the answer to every question. On the candid side, you can be perceived as being too critical, too candid, mean. So it's a balance in that. There's a directness, but it doesn't have to be mean. You have to know your people. You have to know your people on the compassionate side. How do I talk to people? And you talk to them in different ways. Each can be right, but they have to be managed the right way. And at some point, you're probably going to have to flip over to the other side because everyone on your team probably doesn't respond the same way, whether that's the compassionate side or the candid side. The key is how do you do a blend of both, and how do you anticipate how do I help this person the most? At the end of the day, that's all you're trying to do. Whether you're Strong arm is the compassionate side, or your strong arm is the candid side. At times, you have to use your other arm. That's all you're doing. Next week, we'll talk about the balance and what things are important in either method in which you manage. Thanks so much for listening. That's our episode today. Look forward to talking to you again next week.